All right, hello everyone. Here we are, part 4 stream here. Just going to go ahead and continue on. You can see with where I'm at in terms of my player card. Nothing really changed since last update. Just basically been unlocking those chests. As you can see, stuff's just kind of coming in, and just going to keep plugging away, try to open up some Tour 3 chests in here. Would be nice. So let's just play a couple games here. Get the ball rolling here. See if we can't pick up some wins. Try to unlock some more clubs would be nice. You can see, especially with kind of how methodically I'm playing through the tours, that, the biggest thing that I need to kind of do is just make sure that I can keep winning at a good rate, because I'm not really trying to do too much without the potential of earning something from chests. So I'm just kind of playing just a little bit slower. You'll see that all I'm doing for this tee shot, I'm just going to use just a little bit of curl, no overpower, no spin. I don't need to go into that shadow. So what this does is it creates a nice little angle. It'll probably keep me in between clubs to where I'll kind of be towards min long iron a little bit, which will actually be somewhat favorable, just to make sure that you don't kind of get into like a weird spot. But ideally, with the more curl that you can get, if you can get it right to the front of this shadow, that's ideally where you want. But you can see I don't have very much curl or anything right now. So we're just going to kind of just try to deal with what we have. And again, kind of the higher that you go up here, kind of the more that the angle kind of changes, and you kind of bring this rough into play. So that's one of the biggest reasons, just in case, that I like to kind of stay up a little bit short. It just creates a very, very nice angle. Now, what I'm thinking here is maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 per ring at min club here. So maybe just fractionally more than 1 ring here. And in terms of ball speed, I'm thinking second, third bounce, somewhere towards the front here, somewhere right around here. We're pretty much just going to play min club, and as I mentioned, just slightly more than a ring. And all look pretty good, just came in just a little bit hot. As you can see, I couldn't see that third bounce, so I was just trying to guesstimate, and I just brought it in a little too high. I know that there's an upslope on this one, so that's why I brought it in with a little bit of speed. If you use too much backspin on here, you can come up a little bit short, so I wanted to make sure that I was going enough. You could see my adjustment overall was pretty good. If it was coming in a little bit slower, it probably would have broke a little bit more because of wind effect. And I just needed to basically get that just a tiny bit shorter. You can see my opponent here, as I mentioned, kind of in between clubs, almost has to short hit it intentionally here. Let's see how into the game this person is. You can see they have a backbone 5. That's quite the club for only 100 trophies. So I'm assuming maybe, maybe around 100 games or so. No, they're just, they might just be kind of spending a couple bucks more so than anything. Because it's hard to get it up to a 5 if you've only played 30 games. You can see I'm at the 20 point. It could happen, but you see that the way that it has to happen is it has to progress very slow. And I feel like the biggest mistake, well, not necessarily a mistake, but the biggest thing that guys tend to do early on is just try to maybe rush through and, do a little bit too much. So you can see that I'm just kind of pacing it. I'm only doing so much. Oh man, this is going to be a tough hole for me. So it would be ideal if I had the length. I could basically set up on this rough. It'd be very, very challenging to do that. You won't want to use horizon on this hole. So you will want to use this hop shot that my opponent's doing, but it's also very, very challenging to do. You know, more so than anything, I'm just going to kind of play my opponent based on what they do. If they do this horizon shot, there's no way it's stopping on the green. So I may just try to do the rough bump here. So let's see if they short hit it into the bunker. Nope. But as I mentioned, you know, I know they won't stop. And so even if I did make a mistake here trying this rough bump, I should still be closer than them. As you can see, they're kind of towards the back. I don't think I can get that rough bump. A very, very tricky shot. So another thing that I can do is just try to barely get it onto the fairway here. As you can see, it's going to need basically some overpower. I really don't have the curl to do this shot, but I only have to beat my opponent. So knowing that I only have to beat my opponent makes this a little bit easier to do. You can see I still hit the rough, even with the little bit of overpower that I did. However, I was actually trying to just creep it onto the fairway and also cheat it towards the right. You know, I basically just did kind of the best that I could do there. As you can see, these early clubs really aren't designed for these shots until we can start to be leveling them up. So it is going to be risky. You know, there's a chance that your opponent, especially, you know, let's say the roles were reversed. He could have used that to his advantage and basically shot copied me and basically just tried to add just a little bit more power than I did, for example, which would have worked against me. So, but those are the types of things that you want to be thinking about. And here you can see, you know, in terms of coins, I'm just a little bit restricted. So you can see that the way that I'm upgrading my clubs is just a little bit less. I'm going to kind of prioritize and say this is a better upgrade than the other one. So that upgrade is better than this upgrade, because you can see it only gives me just a little bit of ball guide, which I technically don't, you know, I can get away with that. And since it's not going to give me any extra power, just a little bit of backspin, which will end up helping. You know, having that extra backspin will be nice. However, I think this update, when we look at this one, accuracy, power, and ball guide, those are the three most important things early on other than backspin. Backspin's also important, but it's more important on, say, a wood than it is a long iron, because we can get away with stopping the ball with very, very little backspin. So only 3 bars is enough to technically get through the tour. So this is going to be an important upgrade for me, but you can see, you know, financially, I really don't have a lot to do until I can kind of, you know, unlock some more chests, for example, and get some more coin flow. Keeping in mind that I'm also going to need that coin flow for Tour 4 as well, because I think Tour 4 becomes, what, 2,000 a match? So I'll have to keep that in mind for Tour 4. So here we are back to this hole. And again, very similarly to what I did on the last one, we're going to kind of use that similar strategy. But you can see some of these shootouts might really put me against it a little bit. You can see my opponents played 100 games, and you know, not having that side spin could come in to bite me on a couple of these shootouts. It just makes it a little bit tougher when you don't have the curl, specifically the one that I just played. That hole gets a little bit tougher on that shootout without having any side spin. So you can see my opponent using the navigator. You know, kind of have to consider this. It'd be nice to use a marlin ball ideally. I'm trying to think if I should waste it here or not. You can see they hit the rough. They may not be able to get to the green. So because of that fact, we'll have to just kind of see. They might have to do a pitch. I may just kind of play this very similar here and, you know, just utilize this curl and, you know, just take care of, make sure that it gets in the fairway more so than anything. And again, we don't need to drive it very, very long. It's almost ideal if we can just kind of set up right at min long iron and give ourselves a good chance. So let's see what the wind is here. But I'm assuming, you know, my opponent is going to be kind of a little bit maxed out. You can see may have to go into power. If you leave it on this front of this green here, it might not be enough. So with that in mind, you know, my opponent's going to have to kind of execute here in the early phases, because if you leave it in these shadows, for instance, it may not be where you want it, to where it's close enough to the hole. So you'll have to, ooh, whoa. So they're not even doing any curl or anything. This is probably going to wind up into the center of the green a bit. And, you know, this is kind of exactly what I was talking about. They're going to kind of make it to where this putt is very, very, you know, not necessarily automatic. So you can see there's some range there. There's a good chance that I can sneak out birdie here. So here you can see we are kind of right on the brink of the club. I'm just going to put it right at the min line here and just go for this. I'm not going to angle it at all. I'm just going to kind of keep it at the min line because I can see I'm maybe just a little bit far off the tee. Same thing, I'm going to play maybe about 3 per ring here. So right about 1 ring. Very, very similar shot to what you just saw me pull off. And a little bit too much on the break. You can see the speed was just a tiny bit better. Starting to get it. I could use just a little bit more ball guide, but it's not necessarily essential this early on. So let's see what my opponent can do. Assuming he's almost going to be at max here. So you can see very, very challenging putt. Might require a perfect. And you can see they miss offline. So I'm able to sneak away another victory here. So the most important thing to take from these early matches, keep the ball in play. It's the most important attribute because you get yourself out of position. You just don't have the rough length until you can get some of those clubs unlocked. Another thing, I did take my golden shot this morning, and I think I got something like Goliath unlocked, which I'm not using, and I might have got like 1 or 2 extra mile cards. So I didn't show that, but I did take the golden shot this morning. No real good unlocks or anything. I think I did get Goliath unlocked, but as you can see, I'm not really using it yet, so it really doesn't matter. And unfortunately, until I unlock things like Tour 6 and Tour 7, I can't take advantage of golden shot. So if you don't already know this, there's no way I can get those later clubs until I start unlocking the tours. So they need to start being unlocked before I can actually win those prizes. So not a lot of advantage for taking the golden shot until you unlock Tour 7. I recommend not even using it other than the free shot. All I did, obviously, is the free shot. So let's keep going here. At least get 2 more games in. Hopefully I can get 2 more wins. And again, you know, I'm just going to kind of stress keeping the ball in play is so important. So you just want to avoid that mental mistake. Putting it in the rough is the one way to lose on these opening tours. So you do want to just be a little bit careful. Let's take a look at my opponent here. 60, quite a few games. Oh boy. So as I mentioned, you know, that's a 2-ring pull. And if you wind up in the bunker, if you wind up in the sand or wherever, it could be very, very costly. So you do have to be very, very careful here. So since my opponent's in trouble, I'm just going to kind of go for it. I really don't need a lot of power here. So I'm going to even do less than my opponent just to try to focus on more perfect ball. This should be the minimum that I need to just creep it into the fairway. You know, even if I did clip the rough there, it's still going to roll into the fairway. So it's more important for you to just kind of be good with your perfect ball. And you can see I'm right up here in the fairway. Very good opportunity here. And you'll see that my opponent probably has no chance, especially with that headwind of getting to the green. It's going to make things much, much tougher. So you'll just want to be careful with that. And, you know, once again, as I mentioned, try not to do too much. It's much better that you get yourself out of trouble here. Don't go from bunker to rough and put pressure on your short game with no ball guide. So just get it back into play. Maybe you'll luck out and still get the birdie. So you can see that my opponent did get it up closer than me. I'm assuming I'm kind of maybe right in the neighborhood. See, my ball guide's a little limited. Just going to kind of roll this out right off the front of the green here. Not even going to really touch the spin. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 3.5 per ring. It's really not good accuracy. So with that being said, you'll see that I'm going to pull right about here. If you want to see what it visually looks like, it's about 1 grit or so. And I'm about mid club or so. And sure enough, I'm able to pop it in. So take my opponent out of the equation. Don't even let him hit. That's kind of that's ideal. But, you know, as I mentioned, you know, avoid that mistake. And, you know, that's kind of the best thing the best advice that I have is just to, you know, keep the ball in play foremost. And here you can see I need 1 more for my pin chest, and it'll be nice if I can get that unlocked. So let's do 1 more. Hopefully I get the victory. I can really use it. You can see my coins are very, very much down. And as I update my clubs, it's going to get even tougher. And this is a very, very challenging hole. This is one of the most challenging in this tour. So this, again, I cannot stress. Wow, my opponent has a 5 already. That is some craziness. So this is going to be a really tough opponent to play. So hopefully I can get the win. You know, as I mentioned, things like perfect ball going to be essential. Keeping this in play is going to be the most important thing that you can do. So you really want to make sure that you don't make any mental mistake. If you hit the rough and you know, make par, that gives me an open window, for example, to make birdie for win. So you do want to be careful and very close with your perfect ball. So you can see here is a perfect ball. I'm assuming this is going to be okay. Looks like he actually hopped over the edge there. But it is good. Just because that drive's perfect doesn't mean that you're going to get the birdie, though. So that's another thing that you need to be aware of. And this opponent is going to be very, very tough. So I'm going to waste one of my Marlins here. Again, you know, power is important. So I don't want to do too much here. I'm just going to kind of aim for the fairway. Very, very little power, because I don't want to make a mistake here. So you can see great ball off towards the right. However, I was trying to at least factor in and make sure that I wasn't getting too aggressive, that I'm going to put myself in trouble. So up here to about 315, it's going to be very, very tough to get birdie on this hole, even with as well as I played. Oh, man. And I'm playing this guy who has a big dog, which means that he has the advantage on this hole and this hole only. I'm going to have a very good chance to beat this guy because he really pretty much made himself exposed on the par 3s if he needs to use a wood, which a lot of them are long irons, so it might be okay. But, you know, with the accuracy of Big Dog, if you need to pull it out, it's going to make your life a lot harder. So here you can see a little early on the timing, he really didn't curl it. This may shoot up into the rough. So here you can see, as I mentioned, you know, a good chance that a birdie can win this hole. With that being said, it's going to be very, very tough to actually get a birdie, though. It requires, you know, a very, very well-played shot. Now, what I'm going to try to do more so than anything, because I don't have much curl or anything, so I'm just going to kind of point it up here and basically just curl it. Try not to add any power or anything, and just kind of shoot for the back of the green, especially with my opponent's mistake here. So I'm really just trying to ease it up on here and hopefully be able to make the putt and avoid the shootouts, which is going to be ideal. Not trying to do too much, just trying to play it safe. And hopefully I can sneak this out, because it is going to be just a tiny bit tougher to beat my opponent because they have so much experience in this tour. You can see 400 some games already. This is not the type of opponent that we like to go in the early on. You can see I'm 24 games in. So he does have a very good chance here to be able to bounce this in with perfect ball. But, you know, especially with Jungleus, if you miss your perfect ball, it's pretty much going to take you out of this one entirely. So there you can see, great ball. It looks like he didn't shorten up that arrow enough anyway. So probably wouldn't have been able to get that one. You can see that that hole is very, very challenging, especially in these early tours. So let's see here. You can see that all I need to do is roll this in. So I'm just going to be careful, try to use the center of the hole, not too much power or anything. Just release, right on perfect. And roll it in. Avoiding the shootout is ideal when you get up against opponents like that. So anything that you can do to kind of avoid the mistake, that's what I recommend. As you can see, I'm able to sneak that one out and take the win. And no way of knowing whether or not you're going to ever match up against opponents like that. Very tough, but at the same time, you can see that if you play your cards right, you put yourself in a good position. So, and I actually got that marlin back in that pin chest, which is nice. So now what I'm going to do, you can see I'm at about 6,000 coins now. With that being said, I'm going to just go ahead and jump in, and now's the time that I'm just going to pull the trigger on this, just so you can see that I'll upgrade this to a 5, because getting that boost and also getting my ball guide to 3 is the point that I feel comfortable that I could essentially use this club all together and just be able to use that third hop as kind of my guidance as to where to position. So that's really all I'm going to need. But it is really going to be nice once I can start to get a little bit more backspin here and topspin as well. But you'll see early on that Viper is very important. I'd like to go ahead and jump in and get this, but you can see it's actually going to cripple my coin total to where I only have half as many coins. So you'll have to keep that in mind. You can see in the early going, I'm just kind of, strategically upgrading these. I'm only putting on things that I absolutely need. I don't need all that yet. It's not going to make or break me. Same thing with this. It's not going to make or break me. And I'm going to try to avoid the rough altogether. So the goal of these early tours is to not need these clubs at all. So you see sand wedge, rough iron. I'm going to just kind of sit on those until I can build that Tour 4 bank to buy all this stuff. Because you can see that's the point where I can actually start to buy all this stuff up, is going to be once I start winning in Tour 4, 2,000 a match. All I need to do, if I can put together at least an 80% win percent in Tour 4, for example, that's going to give me, 10,000 coins, 20,000 coins, which I'll be able to use to buy all the upgrades at that point. So it's just kind of slow and steady until that. Keep all that in mind. And, what I'm going to do is essentially take a break. You can see I have all these Tour 3 chests. So I have some time. I can take a break for the entire day, and I can just restart tomorrow. So that's the strategy that I have, especially if you're not spending a dime. So with me not spending, I have to play very, very slow. So that is one of the advantages to even spending, if you were just to put $20 on an account, you can essentially build yourself up at a much faster rate. And what you're seeing me have to do is just basically kind of take all these breaks. So I have to play much more strategically if I want to avoid paying. So do keep that in mind, and good luck with your progress. I'll see you guys for part 5 coming up, but let me just show you, kind of where we stand at this point. So you can see that, and, I'll catch you guys on the next one.